What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Hopefully you enjoyed your holiday weekend, got a chance to eat some good food, take some time off, and play some video games. Had a lot of fun over the last few days, but it's Monday morning, so we're back at it here. And there have been several things that happened over the last few days, which does include actual PlayStation 5 faceplates being announced, and the company's so sure they can sell them, they've actually called out and even challenged Sony to sue them if they disagree. We're also going to talk a bit about Cyberpunk 2077 as that class action lawsuit has now officially been filed, and we have a new port of Linux to the Nintendo 64. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're brand new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with the Nintendo eShop on Christmas. I'm curious how many people ran into this situation because Nintendo actually had to tweet about it, which tells me they had a lot of requests and people asking them through customer support what's going on. Let's take a look at this tweet here. We are aware that players are experiencing errors accessing Nintendo eShop and are working to address the issues as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding, and please see our network status page for the latest updates. And I feel like this happens like every Christmas since the Switch came out for Nintendo, where there's an outage on Christmas Day as people get the Switch, open it up, and attempt to access the eShop all at once. It's strange because I figure Nintendo sees how many Switch systems are being sold in anticipation of gifting it for Christmas, but like this happens every time. You feel like they would plan a bit for it, or hey, maybe they're selling so many Switch systems that it's just overrunning them even if they plan ahead for it. I mean, we know that the Switch has been selling like crazy. Like it's always sold out. It's still being marked up online, you know, in like its 4th year, going on 5th soon. So it is pretty impressive there, but like Nintendo might want to get that figured out next Christmas. Just the best advice I can give is if you are gifting a Switch and you're giving it on Christmas, at this point, since we've seen it for several years now in a row, update it ahead of time. And if you know that they are getting certain games digitally, just go ahead and buy them on their Switch and download it ahead of time so they don't have to go through the eShop basically crashing and being unable to buy them. Also, if you've been keeping up with Sony Japan Studios, something interesting has been happening over the past several weeks. They've actually been shedding talent left and right. Like they're losing several producers, directors, and developers from their Japan studio, which is interesting because it kind of falls in line with what Bloomberg has said, that Sony is kind of shifting focus away from Japan and more towards the Western audience. But we can see this tweet here. It says, I will be leaving SIE WWS Japan Studio at the end of December. To all the users who have supported Japan Studio so far, thank you so much. I will continue to take on the challenge of creating new game IPs in my new company, and I ask for your continued support. This is from Teruyuki Toriyama, who actually was the Bloodborne, Demon Souls producer, and they also did Astrobot Rescue Mission, Soul Sacrifice, and several weeks even before this, Sony's Japan Studios lost director of Silent Hill and Gravity Rush, actually pulling away other talent as well, who did things like The Puppeteer. So like they've gone off and made their studio. Now we see the producer for Demon Souls and others going off making their own studio to create their own game. It is interesting to see a lot of this talent kind of leave Sony's Japan Studios, and it makes you wonder what's going to happen going forward and what kind of games and quality they will put out. But we'll just have to keep an eye on it. Who knows, maybe they lose more talent. It's interesting. Like I said, it all kind of lines up with what we've heard and even seen in some of the stock situations, which we're going to go over in a little later on in the show with the PS5 in Japan. It does appear, I would say, that Sony is certainly shifting focus to the Western market, specifically in the US. And for all of you out there who keep asking about Silksong, trust me, I hear you. I would like to see more about it as well. But here's the good news. Turns out we won't have to wait more than just a couple of days, as it looks like Edge magazine on the 31st will have a massive story. In fact, it is the cover story. Check this out here. This tweet was put up by Jen saying, surprise to me as well. Here's this, a full week ahead of schedule. Naturally, I'm furious, but William and Ari at Team Cherry Games have been incredible. It made my last issue of Edge one to remember. Ari's designed 2 stunning custom covers. Wait till you see the subs one. Team Cherry presented a new demo, new screenshots, and we did hours of interviews. They were so generous with their time, even though they've been so busy developing the game, as they know the fans have been waiting so patiently for details. We worked hard to keep it a surprise. This is exciting stuff, obviously, because people have been waiting for more info since like mid-2019, really. Like, we've always been like, oh, This might be the Direct Mini. This might be the partner showcase that has Silksong as like one of the big anchors of the show. It's like the last thing, or they just kick off the show with a bang. Here's Silksong, but there we go. Few days, we'll just check out Edge Magazine. Should be a massive write-up in there, and who knows, maybe they even ask them, oh, when do you think this game is gonna come out? I know there's not a lot of people developing the game, but I mean, it's exciting stuff. A lot of us are hoping that it's right around the corner, and I guess we'll find out maybe December 31st. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're starting right away with these PlayStation 5 faceplates. The shells on the outside of the PlayStation 5, of course, are like matte white. They have cool texture on the inside of it that has like the Sony's symbols, which is great. But a lot of people were kind of turned off by the two-tone look, and they decided to take matters in their own hands. They've now removed the shells, painted them, done all kinds of things with it. But the idea for people that there could be custom faceplates in the future is exciting, and people are very hopeful that Sony would do something with it. However, nothing yet, but we have seen some third parties attempt and then even get shut down by Sony, like PlayStation. But it looks like Dbrand is pretty confident that they can do this. They had a massive post over on Reddit and even challenged Sony a bit. As the title of this post suggests, we're now the global leaders in PS5 faceplates. They have a nice little picture there, a close-up of the faceplate, and it says right below that, "Sue us, Sony." So yeah, a little bit of a call out there for Sony. This project has been in the works since just before we told you not to buy PlayStation 5 skins. Spoiler alert, this is why we told you not to buy the PlayStation 5 skins. After moving a few more chess pieces through 4 dimensions, we added a new production line to our plastic injection molding facility and got it to work. The skills we've refined through the past few years of developing the grip case has uniquely positioned our organization to create OEM-grade faceplates, ones with all of the precision, attention to detail, and needlessly elaborate packaging that you've come to expect from Dbrand. We'll be entering mass production on PlayStation 5 faceplates by year's end. However, we won't be accepting orders until we have stock at our Toronto headquarters ready to ship. If CD Projekt Red has taught us anything, it's that selling products before they're finished is a bad idea. Wow, CD Projekt Red can't catch a break, even in an announcement about PlayStation 5 faceplates. All right, if you're among the millions of humans who didn't get a PS5 for Christmas, stay calm when you see these go out of stock. We anticipate that the demand will outpace supply at launch, but rest assured, faceplates will be a permanent fixture in our portfolio. Now, currently, Dbrand has a page set up where you can sign up for alerts around stock and when it's available and all of this. And looking at their faceplate, it does look different right away. Like the top part appears to be shorter, so it's not like these big kind of wings that are sitting at the top of it and kind of angling away from the middle of the system. And I'm looking at this, at first I was thinking, well, how can they be so sure that Sony won't try to shut them down or sue them? Or I guess they think, well, if they do sue us, we'll win anyway. The only thing I can think of is because it was talked about with PlayStation, there was a patent dispute, that the difference here between the shells with what Dbrand is doing and what Sony has done with theirs is different enough to where it wouldn't be patent infringement. That's the only thing I can think of, because there's an obvious difference when it comes to look. And currently we only have matte black announced that I've seen. And it's pretty cool to see this because Dbrand is a company that's reputable, and surely they will deliver on something like this. As they say, going towards the end of January, they don't want to open up pre-orders until they're sure that they have stock and they're ready to go, which is probably a good idea. But Dbrand is high quality stuff, and yeah, I'm expecting some good looking faceplates out of this, starting with matte black, which is good. That's what I wanted. So we'll see if they do like a red, a blue, a purple. Just saying, Dbrand, if you're watching, you know, throw purple in there and I'll grab one of those. But I'll definitely pick up one of these matte black faceplates to check it out in a video here on the channel. Next up, let's talk about Cyberpunk 2077 CD Projekt, and now a class action lawsuit that was first explored and now filed, it appears. And we can actually see this from Business Wire saying, Rosen Law Firm, a global investor rights law firm, announced it has filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of purchasers of the securities of CD Projekt SA between January 16th and December 17th. According to the lawsuit, defendants throughout the class period made false and/or misleading statements and/or failed to disclose that Cyberpunk 2077 was virtually unplayable on the current generation Xbox or PlayStation systems due to an enormous number of bugs. As a result, Sony would remove Cyberpunk 2077 from the PlayStation Store, and Sony, Microsoft, and CD Projekt would be forced to offer full refunds for the game. Consequently, CD Projekt would suffer reputational harm, and as a result, defendants' statements about its business operations and prospects were materially knowingly false and misleading and or lacked a reasonable basis at all relevant times when the true details entered the market, the lawsuit claims that investors suffered damages. Now, no class has actually been certified by the courts or anything like that, and they're gonna have to look in to make sure that there is enough people, I guess, that are eligible for this class action lawsuit. So they're, of course, saying, hey, contact us if you would be a part of this whole class action lawsuit. And misleading statements, all of this, yeah, I mean, we've gone over it like a million times. At the head of CD Projekt Red, they said that it was running surprisingly well on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. And naturally, they also said, hey, go get refunds if you want them from PlayStation. And Sony didn't like that because if they start giving out refunds for a game, then they are admitting that the game itself is not functional, so it shouldn't be on their PlayStation Store. And then that got ripped down, the stock tanked. And yeah, when investors lose money, and it's a lot of money, it looks like, we talked about like $1 billion in wealth or something they lost overnight at one point. Yeah, you're not going to be too happy about that. That's generally when the lawsuits start coming out, and class action lawsuits take a while. Like, I don't see this ending for a long time, possibly years even. We'll see if it gets accelerated a bit because of how much money is involved here, but still, I mean, is it really that surprising to see that we get lawsuits now happening around Cyberpunk 2077? Not really. It was such a disaster for this game. They've been actually fixing it quite a bit over the last few weeks now, but still, it is buggy. It still struggles on last generation hardware. And I mean, they already told us, basically the game will come out officially in February as we get 2 more larger patches. Then we wait for next generation support, but here we are now with class action lawsuits. There's apparently another 1 or 2 still in the wings right now, possibly something that could pop up over the next week or two. And again, it's Cyberpunk 2077. You kind of expect lawsuits to start to pop up as much as you do with bugs. Next up, let's talk about the Famitsu sales charts over in Japan. There's been a lot of curiosity around how the Switch would fare going into the holiday season if the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series systems are there alongside of it. And turns out in Japan, the Switch is still dominating, like no questions asked. In fact, we're gonna go over the top 10 games here and then we'll look at the hardware, but I wanna tell you now, in the top 30 games, 29 of them are Switch titles. There is one game, and it's like number 27 or 28 or something, and it's Cyberpunk on the PlayStation 4, and that dropped 93% week over week, which means that could fall off the chart completely next week, and the top 30 could all be Switch titles, which is like outrageous. But let's go over to the top 10 here, and we can see Momotaro, which has been leading the way as the #1 game there for a couple of weeks now, from Konami, by the way. Konami's about to have a 1 million unit seller here in Japan with physical copies. 209,000. They're just, what's that, just 36,000 or so away from 1 million there in Japan. Animal Crossing New Horizons at 2, Ring Fit Adventure at 3, which Ring Fit Adventure crossed 2 million units sold there, so that's been very successful for Nintendo. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 4, then we have Pikmin 3, Minecraft, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Super Mario Party, Super Mario 3D All-Stars, and then Clubhouse Games number 10. Moving down to the hardware, Nintendo Switch at the top, 263,304, which means that the Switch has now officially crossed 17 million units in Japan alone. That means in probably the first half of next year, it'll most likely have crossed 20 million units based on how things are rolling along and what Nintendo's schedule is kind of lining up to be next year, and the fact that they still have a pretty big week ahead of them coming up in the next Famitsu sales. Yes, this is moving along pretty well for the Switch. The PlayStation 5, 17,578, still supply constrained pretty badly here. I mean, it is kind of everywhere, but like I look at Japan and the PlayStation 5 has sold 241,000 units. That's it in Japan. That's not great for the PlayStation brand overall right now, but again, we'll see how things look next year as they look to hopefully move more stock there. The PlayStation 4 at 10,343. I feel like a lot of people just couldn't find a PS5 for the holidays there, and they were just like, no, you're getting a PS4. That's just the way it is. 3DS 583, Xbox Series systems at 375, then the Xbox One at 33. I mean, the Xbox Series, that at least makes sense because Microsoft isn't strong in Japan, so they're probably not sending a ton there. But like I said, the big surprise continues to be Sony, and we talked about them even shifting away from Japan. I see the stock here. I hear about the talent being shed from Sony Japan studios, and it really does make you wonder. But the big story continues to be the Switch in Japan, rolling along, no problem with the next-gen consoles there. And I will say the Switch appears to be just more readily available than the other systems, but still, it continues along with Konami actually being the company that appears to be pushing Switches along more so than Nintendo themselves this holiday, with Momotaro just topping the sales charts every single week over the last month or so. So impressive stuff there. And I expect another big week from Nintendo in the next report. And then 2021 is setting up to be massive for them. So yeah, 20 million Switch units, 7 or 8 months into 2021. Looks to be something that is going to happen. In our last bit of news, let's talk about Linux on the Nintendo 64. Now, I only use Linux when I have to. I'm not a big Linux user myself. Like if I need to recover data from a hard drive or format a hard drive in a certain way, Linux is up and then I'm kind of out after that. But I do know there are people who like using Linux, and I know there are people who like seeing Linux put on things that it shouldn't be on, like the Nintendo 64, because there's a port of Linux that was released a few days ago that you can actually download and try out for yourself, like right now. As long as you have an SD card with an EverDrive equipped and you drop that in your 64, yeah, you can start it right up. In fact, here's a video demonstrating this port of Linux. This is from Ryan Radford over on YouTube. And you might be wondering, why would anyone put Linux on there? Well, I have two reasons. One was from the person themselves who created this, Laurie Kassanen, who said having Linux available makes it easier to port emulators and frame buffer or console games, which I could see that. But really, to me, it's one of those situations of just because you can. Like we've seen Doom put on things that you're not going to play through Doom on, like pregnancy tests or calculators, any of that. But it's the fact that you were able to get it there. I could see this being something that it's like, yes, we were able to put Linux on the Nintendo 64. Is it an experience that's like really good? Not really. According to them, you constantly run out of memory, and I mean, it's running off of 4 megabytes. So yeah, I can see that, but it is very impressive to see this. And maybe there are people out there who are like, well, that will make it easier to develop an emulator or something for the 64, and it's running in Linux, but we have seen now some emulators that are just developed for the Nintendo 64, kind of for the ground up without Linux being needed. So again, not 100% sure how useful that will be there. It's just really cool to see, and if you're a big fan of Linux, you can go download it now and try it out on your 64 on real hardware right now. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Monotune saying, I wonder when the Cyberpunk news will dry up. It's getting to the point I almost missed the times there was a new Nintendo Direct leak. You know, I don't really know what else is left for Cyberpunk to do. I feel like we've kind of run its course now. We have the lawsuit officially filed, and it's going to be a while before that is determined. So maybe we are getting into Nintendo Direct leak season, right? I mean, we're coming up on January. We're really close to 2021, and you expect Nintendo to start talking a little bit. I feel like midway through January, we'll have something from Nintendo, a Direct, a partner showcase, just something to start talking about Mario 3D World and maybe what they have in store for us for 2021. So I'm sure the leak season will start back up for Nintendo and Directs pretty soon. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Well, there's Dbrand introducing a PlayStation 5 matte black faceplate that we'll apparently be able to pick up next month, even challenging Sony to sue them if they're not happy about it. Interesting strategy there. And then what do you think about a class action lawsuit being filed against Cyberpunk 2077 and CD Projekt? Are you trying to jump in on that because you were an investor that lost a bunch of money? Let me know there. And then what about Linux being ported over to the Nintendo 64? I know it's been done before, but here it is again, and it seems to be a fresh build, I guess, or port of Linux being moved over. Let me know if you're gonna try that one. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.